Hi folks, Brian Ferguson here, recording this on October 24th, 2025. Little update regarding the individual insurance market in California. Sending this out to my clients who have individual insurance policies. And there's really not much I can do for you for the next week. Everything for me starts on November 1st. I've mentioned this before, but I'm getting a number of calls and emails from clients that the insurance carriers have probably already reached out to you if you've existing policy during the month of October saying, hey, renew with us. And they give you the rates for renewals and if you want to change to a different plan inside. And psychologically, they want to get you to renew during the month of October before we as brokers have all of the rates in so that I can send you comparable rates, because psychologically once you make up your mind that you want to renew, you tend to not look at anything anymore, which is fine, but it's their way of locking some of the existing clientele in place. By law, the carriers don't have to give the rates to the quote companies that help brokers like me put together all of the quotes with the push of a button from all the different carriers until October 31st, and literally every year there are carriers submitting their rates at like 4:30 p.m. on October 31st. So I don't get access to quotes for everybody until November 1st or November 2nd, and that's when I can talk to anybody about all the plans that are available. So right now, you're just getting offers from your existing carrier, and frankly, if everything's fine with your existing carrier, I don't see anything dramatic happening as far as one carrier that used to be cheaper now being more expensive or anything. So having said that, starting November 1st or 2nd, I will be able to run quotes for everybody from all the carriers. What we're seeing in California is an average of about an 11 plus, I don't remember the exact number, I think it's like 11.4% increase on average. Averages are always misleading though, because your plan may be more or less. Your carrier may be more or less. The state of California released some information recently, and it's mostly the little small regional carriers that are having the really high increases. Inland Empire Insurance Group, which is in San Bernardino and Riverside, Chinese Community, Los Angeles Chinese Community Insurance had, I think, one of the highest in the state. They were like 17 or 18%. As the name implies, they're in Los Angeles only, and they cater to the Chinese community, so I don't have any clients with them. But a couple little regional players, and one in Northern California I've never heard of. Those were the carriers that had like 16, 17, 18% increases. At the bottom end, Kaiser had the lowest increase on average this year. It was just over 7%. Kaiser has been trumpeting that to the brokers, saying, yay, and we're so great. We've got these 3 plans that were only, 2 and 3%. And I looked at those plans, and they're very low utilization plans, which is probably why they had such a low increase. They want to get people on those plans. But if they've got plans at 2 and 3%, that means they also have plans that are increasing 10 or 12%. So, in order to get that 7% average. So, again, we don't know plan by plan yet what the rates are. What I have seen, though, is the major national carriers, your Blue Shields, your Anthems, your Health Nets, they were right in line with the state average. They were, 9, 10, 11%, just a little bit under what the average is, right in line. So having said all of that, this is the time of year that you can, add a spouse, add a child, change from one carrier to another, change from a HMO to a PPO or a PPO to an HMO, upgrade, downgrade. You're on a silver plan now and you got some medical expenses coming next year. Let's bump you up to a better plan. It's worth it to pay the premium and have lower out-of-pocket medical expenses and lower deductibles and stuff if you know something's coming. So these are the kind of things we can look at right now. The big variable, and I've mentioned this before, is for those of you on Covered California, what's that subsidy going to be? It's a big part of why the government is shut down right now, and I don't mean to sound political about this, but what I'm about to say is just the truth. A part of what the Republicans want to do is roll back the subsidies that are being paid. There was an increase to the subsidy that came out during COVID in 2020, and they want to roll back the subsidy to the pre-COVID numbers, the 2019 numbers. Democrats want to extend that out and keep those numbers higher so that people get subsidies. And as with all things government and Congress, who knows how long this is going to go on. They may come to a conclusion. First of all, we don't know what the conclusion is going to be, and we don't know when they're going to come to a conclusion. If Democrats get their way, in theory, the subsidies are going to be increased. You'll notice I said in theory, which higher subsidies mean lower payments for all of you who are on Covered California. But the reality of that is everything right now is being written and programmed and put together as if they're going to be the lower subsidies. And it takes a lot of time to reprint all the papers and redo all the forms and all the charts and all of that. So if something happens on December 28th, they're not going to be able to roll that out for January 1st. So a lot up in the air right now. But basically, this is one of the key sticking points that Democrats are digging their heels in on the proposal that the Republicans are putting through. Is no, we need to keep those subsidies up, and estimates are that literally 10 million people nationally will just say, I can't afford this anymore. Because if your subsidy goes down, if you have a 12% increase in your premium, 10% increase, just to make math easy, if you have a 10% increase in your premium, and usually the subsidy also goes up about 10%, so you wind up paying about the same, maybe a hair more. But not only will we not be having annual increases to the subsidy, but you'll get a fairly dramatic decrease. And we're looking at numbers where the subsidy, the premium goes up by 10%, but what the person actually pays because of the decreased subsidy triples. And there are people who are on a subsidy who are receiving a subsidy for their premium, who are barely able to pay their bills now, and we may very well see 10 million people nationally just say, I can't afford this anymore, and be uninsured. And that has a snowball effect, because one of the pluses of Covered California, or the Affordable Care Act, is getting many people insured. If you have everybody insured, it actually helps bring rates down. So if you get 10 million people suddenly drop off, it gives the carriers the ability to turn around next year and say, well, we got 10 million less uninsured people now that we didn't have before, so we're going to raise the overall rates because we're going to have to pay for part of that, and it just creates higher rates. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. But if you log into Covered California right now, you're going to look at the rates as if the subsidies get rolled back. So whatever you see in your Covered California portal, if you go in there right now, it could get better. Your rate could go down. That's kind of like the worst case scenario. And it's just a big variable. And right now, we don't know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. So all we can do is operate in the world as it is. And then as soon as we hear that the government shutdown ended and our agreement got reached, I will reach out again to everybody on Covered California and say, hey, look, here's what your premium is going to be because there's a bigger subsidy, or the numbers were right and the subsidy is much smaller. So that's a huge variable I don't know the answer to. I'll let you know as soon as I hear. So having said that, this is the time that you can look at other plans, other carriers. If you're on Covered California and the subsidy gets to be too big a number, if you're on PPO, like if you're with the Blue Shield PPO, if you're here in San Diego and you want to access scripts, we can look at the Anthem or the HealthNet HMO for you. It'll save you some money, and so that'll be less money out of your pocket, but you'll be in the HMO world. If you're already on the HMO, I've got nowhere that I can backpedal for you. That's the least expensive way to go. So we're just going to have to figure out what those numbers look like when we have them. In the meantime, if you have any questions, respond to this email or give me a call. If you want to look at other carriers just to know what's out there, you can always send me a list of doctors that you want to access and or hospitals that you need to access, and I can look at what carriers give you access to the networks that you need to get into. So like I say, here in San Diego, you tell me, hey, I need to access Scripps doctors or Sharp doctors, and if you're in Orange County, I need to access Hoag Hospital, network, or whatever other networks you need to access. And I can make sure that whatever we look at takes your doctors are in it. Or then you make the hard choice of, wow, I could save a bunch of money with another carrier, but I've got to change doctors. I've had clients have to do that. So I'll be able to get actual numbers for you in early November. We have until December 31st to make changes. Those changes would be effective on January 1st. And then our hard actual drop dead date for making changes is January 31st. Anything we did in the month of January would be effective February 1st. And at that point, you're locked in for the rest of the year based on, unless the only changes you can make is if you get married or divorced or have a child or somebody passes away or something like that. There's a change in your family. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm not going to reach out to all of you one by one on the phone because I've got several hundred individual clients. So I'm going to do mass mailings like this and leave it to you. If you want quotes, if you want to look at other carriers, if you need to research doctors, by all means reach out to me and I'll help you with all of that. Thanks. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.